Standard 4 is what makes up all of domain 4. And that is your professional and legal ethical responsibilities tied to our profession. Because as much as people would like to pretend that teachers are just overpaid babysitters, we're not. We serve very many functions. We are the hub for resources for a student struggling in education, struggling as far as CPS is concerned. We are a mandated reporter, meaning we are a safety net, a safety guard for all children within the school system to be vigilant that they, are coming from healthy places, that they aren't being put in situations that are dangerous. We are tasked with their cognitive and academic development. We are tasked with their social and emotional development, how they deal with losing, how they deal with making mistakes. And typically, people think, oh, well, that's done at home. Yeah, it is supposed to be done at home. That's true. A student's emotional intelligence should be built via the lessons that they receive at home and at school. And so it's a partnership, but many times they don't receive those poignant lessons having to do with society and emotion, how to regulate emotion, how to deal when someone else is having an emotional breakdown or outburst, or crying, or just so myriad things. And that's why we have social emotional learning curriculums, which they do wonders for school programs. So my point in mentioning this is that a teacher wears so many hats, because in our profession, we play so many roles. We have not a professional role. We don't just have the role of teaching the math, science, and social studies, or theater, or whatever our content area is. That is not our singular role. We have multiple roles that we must play, multiple hats. We have multiple responsibilities. And all the while, we have to adhere to some of the most stringent legal and ethical requirements of the profession, because there's nothing more delicate, sacred, and valuable than our children. There's this corny song from back in the day, the children are the future, but they literally are. If we don't do a good job making our students critical thinkers, free thinkers, compassionate people, then our society is going to reflect those deficiencies, right? If they are deficient academically, our society will reflect that, and we will have issues as a result of it. So there are so many responsibilities that go into, and a lot of legality, because we're dealing with kids and they're so very important, and just our task is so monumental as far as professions are concerned. I feel like doctors are very important also, but the stuff that a teacher does day in and day out, with the level of public thanks and praise, and then the economical, pay, it's not commiserate with what we are tasked with doing. So I always compliment new teachers that are coming to the profession, because I feel like this is the most noble profession that there is. We teach the doctors, inspire the doctors, tell the doctors when they're in 7th grade, you know what? I know you're a little bit pesada, but you are a genius and you're going to do great things. I was pesada too. They told me that too, and it's fine. There has to be someone who sees something and believes in the children in order for them to believe in themselves. Because it's very rare that a child just to believe in themselves, just on the point of themselves, especially if the people they have at home are not believing in them and building that self-esteem, building that sense of self. So our task is actually pretty large in the real world. Let's take a look at what our task is like as far as what the state says, right? So again, standard 4 makes up all of domain 4. So on this first section, in the knowledge section, you have interacting and communicating with families. I feel like this is a little, or not a little, like a huge resource that is overlooked as small: parent involvement. Because many times you get parents and they don't want to be involved, but there are ways in which to get them feel more involved. They might be uninvolved because they don't have time, finding ways that they can respond to you that suit to your needs, being flexible and not just saying, oh, well, this is my planning period. If they can only come after school, then you stay after school to talk, to make that extra step. You staying, them knowing you made this extra time to meet with them on their time because their child's education is important to you, so important that you went out of your way and stayed after work to talk about it. And we don't get paid for a lot of those things, but you going the extra mile with the parents to show them, I am on the side of your child. I am your child's cheerleader this year. I'm going to help them achieve these goals, which we all have to achieve, but they're going to do it with my help, with your help. Make, just like I tell you to build a classroom culture, where the students feel like they matter, like I guarantee you, I have 5 kids and I'm a teacher myself. And my favorite, so that means that I have 5 kids. I'm a teacher. My oldest is graduated. My second oldest is going to be a senior, and my youngest will be in first grade next year. So I've had a lot of teachers that I've gone through, a lot, especially when you get to secondary, you get to like 4 or 5, 6 teachers in a year that you have to keep straight. The ones that I remember are the ones that in some way we had a conversation. It could have only been once. It could have been something very small that they said, but I knew like, oh, my child's like success matters to them. You know what I mean? Like the way that it matters to me. And that made me like, whatever they need, de volada, I'm there. Like, you need something, I'm there for you. What do you need from me? Making and building a connection with the family is so important, because look at 4.1K, the importance of family involvement. Getting family members to become more involved, even when they aren't to begin with. It's not for sure if the parent is in second grade and they've never been very involved that they can't be. Maybe they just never were invited to be involved. They never felt like they had anything to give to it. Parents have a lot of resources and valuable data that we can utilize. We have to make them feel that they matter, because they do matter in the equation. If we have them on our team, man, our team's going to be very strong. Because if you're working to build connections with the family, you are also strengthening your connection with the student. So the importance of family involvement cannot be understated in your child's education. So you have to interact appropriately. This would be how it would be in a question, right? Here, interacting, these are the things that you need to know, and here's what you need to be able to do. How do you apply it? What's the application? And this is where the answer choices are going to be. The correct answer choices are going to be from here, right? So 4.1S is interact appropriately with families that have diverse characteristics, backgrounds, and needs. And that means that if you don't know anything about Ethiopia and you have students from Ethiopia, their parents are coming in for meet the teacher or something, you need to research that diversity, that cultural nuance that you are deficient and illiterate in, to get a new literacy in order to best communicate with the family, best display your respect, because just like we have to show that we respect a student's culture, the same with the parents. I've had teachers, because like I said, I started teaching in 2003. And so a lot of my students were gang members. Many of them came from the colonia. Their parents were gang members. You know, dads would come to parent teachers with like tattooed drops on their faces, you know, or other, you know, just really not what you would expect from a parent conference, and who is attending. You know, the mom might be dressed ridiculously inappropriately. And this is something from my experience where the teachers in a team meeting for 7th graders are, and I can feel it, where like they feel like, oh, these people are below us. This guy has a tattoo on his face. The lady's dressed. No wonder we have problems with this kid. And they give that feel to the parents. That is literally the worst way to win the parents over to be on your team. Because regardless of whether you agree with the mom's dress for the meeting or the dad's choice of facial tattoos, your goal and your success is still contingent upon the student's success. And we need their parents on board. So alienating parents because you don't understand their cultural nuance will only lead to unsuccessful pathways. Your students will not be successful. You will not be successful. Sitting there judging the parents of the students that you have will not bring you any success. You know, becoming mindful of the reasons why they are the way that they are. And for me, this particular, like I can see the mom's outfit in my brain, and because it was really highly inappropriate. I think there was a fishnet top and a bustier underneath. And the dad had a legitimate, and people talked about it after they left. So does that mean that he killed someone? I mean, we talked like, did he really, or is it for you know, bragging, fake bolstering reasons? We didn't know, but gangs were prevalent. It was low socioeconomic, and it might have been a tattoo for like protection purposes. They do that, like to seem more hard than they are in a place that's very, very hard. So, were they caring parents? Yes. You know why? Because they were sitting in chairs with 6 people, 5 of whom were looking at them like, why are we wasting our time with you? We now see where the problem is. They care. They're there. If you're here, dude, I don't give anything what you're wearing. You could be in a whole bikini and chanclas. You came here to talk to me about your son or daughter's, you know, situation, their work. That's halfway there. My job as a professional who has several professional roles, several professional responsibilities, is to win over these parents. And maybe along the way, teach them some new things. Maybe they let their son stay up at all nights because he has access to his phone. Listen, and I would tell him, oh, I have 5 kids, man. I go through this all the time. Let me just tell you, at a certain time, 9 o'clock, I go around and I pick up everybody's phone. I don't care if you're in high school. Give me your phone. It's going to my door. Good night. I love you. I'll wake you up in the morning. I am the alarm clock. They tried to do the whole, oh, I need an alarm clock. No. Alarm clock, tus nalgas. That's what I'm for. Give me your phone. You'll be fine. I'll go to Walmart tomorrow and buy you an alarm clock. But just setting healthy boundaries. They're little kids. They'll get over it. They'll be upset with it for a couple of days. But, you know, thinking that the parents are going to come to us like this theoretical, perfect Ozzie and Harriet parents that are doing everything right, it's just not, it's not the way that it's going to be, for many reasons. For economic reasons, it might not even be that the parents are neglectful. It might be that they are part of the working poor. They work 2 jobs each, so they're not there to take the phone away at night. That's why Julio falls asleep in class. So just out of necessity sometimes, and speaking with the parents and the students like they are humans and they matter will go half of the way. Like I said, you know, a student that believes that you believe that they matter, that knows that you believe that they matter, will do anything to achieve whatever goals you set for them. The same thing with parents. People are the same. People are just like genuinely the same once you reach a specific age. And so a lot of these parents don't have the parenting skills, don't have any sort of pedagogy, don't understand what needs to happen. And there's nothing wrong with educating them in a way that doesn't make them feel dumb, ignorant, or like they're failing at their job. Whether they're failing at their job is neither here nor there. We're there as a support system, as an extra spoke in the wheel of support for a student's success. It takes a village. We cannot do it alone. A teacher by themselves cannot do it alone. A parent by themselves cannot do it alone. A grandparent can't do it alone. You know, it takes a village of people gently nudging children as they go through the different normal stages of life and question things in a normal way. It's easy to get jealous and to, you know, throw a fit, to react that way and to get into that caveat of behavior. However, it's also very easy to fix. You don't have to, you know, to understand, analyze your feelings, analyze where they're coming from, look at the behavior. Those are skills that can be taught early on. And those are things that we can help even the parents who don't have these skills, help them learn. So the importance of a parent in the partnership for success cannot be understated. And anytime we can, we want to make contact. If they're doing a big project, invite them to see the presentations, invite the parents, talk to the principal, say, we're going to use the cafeteria during my class periods, not lunch. We'll use the whatever during then, or we're going to do the hallways, or we're going to do the pavilion, wherever. Make the parents feel like their child matters, because their child matters to them for sure. And I love anybody who loves my kids, literally anyone. My bestest friends are the ones who love my kids the most, honestly. Like, I don't know if that's just causation. I don't know if that's a cause or effect, but like, it just so happens my bestest friends in the whole world are such amazing mentors, models, and they genuinely care about my children. And that matters to me. I love people who love my kids. Parents love teachers who they can feel genuinely care about their kid as a person, not just as a number, not just as a meet the teacher. Hi, this is what I do. I'll forget you later. You know, try to make a connection, a relationship. It's hard, especially if you teach secondary, because that means that sometimes I had 130 something kids. It's difficult for me to make a relationship with 130 people that I keep and I'm super vigilant about. And then also so too with their families, but it's got to be done, because education is an all hands on deck, is an everybody working together, is a math teacher, science teacher, social studies, reading. They're all working on second language acquisition. They're all working on social emotional skills. They're all working on metacognition in order to better help each other, to better help the student's success across the board. Okay, Jaime, Miss Beasley, do I have any questions before I move on to 4.2?
Well said. Can you hear me?
None for me.
Okay, excellent.
None for me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
No questions.
I skipped it already. Oh, it's over here. 4.2 down here. Appropriate ways for working and communicating effectively. Various contexts. So you should try to be contacting your families in various ways. There's technological ways that you can contact them. There's Remind. There's there's all sorts of things. There's within the Google Classrooms, you can invite the parents even to have access, not to do the work, but to at least to see the assignments and to leave messages. So there's lots of ways to engage with the family. Remembering that if you have English language learners, then you certainly need to be mindful that you are sending home things that can be read, things that can be understood by the parents. I will give you a really good example of a school that doesn't do such a great job. They don't have a large population of ELL, so I'm assuming that's why they do such a terrible job. In the Valley, we do an amazing job of making sure whatever language your parents speak, we're sending it home in English and that. So, but over here in San Antonio, they don't do that always, especially if it comes from the teacher. If it comes from the district, typically it will come in Spanish and English. But if it comes from the teacher, and I know for a fact, because I worked in the North Side junior high, that they don't have a lot of Spanish speaking teachers. You know, the Spanish teacher can speak Spanish, and then a handful of teachers who have migrated from the valley, right? And I would be pulled out of my classroom to go be a translator during parent principal conferences sometimes, you know. So I know that the schools themselves are lacking in many Texas areas that don't have a lot of diversity in linguistics on their campus. So this particular elementary school that one of my best friend's son goes to, she has another friend, and the mom only speaks Spanish. She's a friend of mine as well, and she only speaks Spanish, and her son takes advantage. He's extremely misbehaved at school. So any parent teacher conference, if they don't have a translator, and sometimes they don't, and he translates for her. And let me tell you, his translation is not what is meaning to be said. He's like a very troubled child and very sneaky. And because the school is not doing their part as far as communication, she's not being an effective parent. I mean, because she goes there and he tells her this one story, but that's not really what was said. So communication is very important, especially if we're talking about, you know, second language learners. If you need them on your team, you need to be coming at them with language that they understand, you know. You need to make sure, if you're having a parent teacher conference, if you are not fluent in that second language, then you need to have a translator there with you. It's not enough just to have the student present repeating things or saying things later. That's not sufficient. So for 4.3 through 4.8 of the K, and then 4.11 of the S standards, interacting with other educators and contributing to the school and district. So remember, I told you, it is not our job just to teach the students, you know, academically and social emotionally. It's our job to build relationships with their families to help better our success and the students' learning success. It is also our job to interact, to create, to discuss, to add with other educators. We must contribute to the school as a whole and to the district, to the goals of the district. We're not really held responsible to go in and measure like, how are you contributing to the goals of the district? But I'll give you an example of a time where I did my part and I contributed to the goals of the district. So in Northside, they were in 2011 through 2013 moving to mostly online, and Google. We were rolling out Google Apps. All of the students were going to have email addresses. This was in 2012 when we implemented it. So I was part of the district Google pilot team, because they were going to online, getting ready for, you know, more online work, streamlined with Google. And so that meant many weeks I had to stay after work to go to meetings and then help plan this huge information session and professional development for parents, and then another one so I was with a group of teachers, professionals, who helped the district particularly achieve their goals, right? It's like Team NISD. I didn't get paid extra for that, but I was proud to be part of that because it was something I felt that was important and something that really helped Northside be more prepared than almost any other Texas school district when it came to COVID, because they had already switched to online platforms in even just like a homework sense. Like, okay, we're going to meet online with Miss Salceda on Thursday at 7:00 to do a round table, and the kids would have to join in. And so they had homework assignments that were online since 2013, and 2012 was when they piloted it, and it made it to where they were more ready than other districts when COVID came around. You know, they had been using Google Classrooms, they had been using Google web pages and teacher web pages, and had their assignments and all their documents already on there for years and years and years. So it really, really helped them. That was a district initiative that I took part of. So let's take a look at it. Types of interactions among professionals in a school. So you have vertical teaming. Now, Ms. Beasley, can you tell me what vertical teaming is? Ms. Beasley? You there?
I'm here.
Can you
I'm
tell me
here.
what, can you give me an example of a vertical teaming?
Vertical team. Let me think.
It's like vertical alignment, and we do vertical alignment via vertical teaming.
I might be a little, might be mixed up with it, but isn't it when it's the same teachers or the same subject, but
Yes,
doesn't matter the
ma'am.
actual
So-
grade?
Yes, so like in a high school, my vertical team was the English department. So depending on where I was in the team, and I got moved around, I did freshmen, I did ninth grade, I did sophomores, I did juniors, I did seniors regular, I did seniors AP, but I was still part of the ELAR team, and we did our planning and much of our curriculum alignment together based on the weaknesses that we saw from our students. So the 10th grade teachers would tell us, okay, this year the kids really didn't know how to embed evidence from the text, and we would know that that was something we really needed to hit more because that's what they saw. So it helped us being in that team to gather information. Like, even though they weren't our students anymore, their performance and their knowledge base was important information for us as far as our planning was concerned. Horizontal teaming. So Ms. Beasley, if you'd like to tell us what horizontal teaming is.
No, not on that one. Let's see. Vertical is, let me think. I want to mute myself because I think out loud.
You got it.
Well, horizontal mean different subjects, but yet touch within the same area or
So
not?
it could be. That's an excellent question. So that it is in that way. So you can do horizontal teaming where, like, in a junior high, I'm going to get together with all the rest of the 7th grade English language arts teachers to plan and to make a lesson and to team together, right? To team teach. Or it could be across the grade level. So I'm with my horizontal team. So I was part of a team at Liberty Middle School, and on my team there was a history teacher, there was a math teacher, a science teacher, and then everybody had the same music, the same drama, the same blah, blah, blah. But we were on a horizontal team across the board, same grade level. Vertical just changes grade level. So you could also vertical team, with other, cross-curricular. Horizontal team, cross-curricular.
Thank you.
For sure. And what about team teaching? What do you think that is?
I guess going through all the subjects as teachers. One teaches math and the other one.
Okay, well, that's a really good response. So that is one way that you can team teach. So my ELAR partner, we taught the same grade levels. We would team teach very often. So we would come up with big lesson plans where we would bring our students together and mix up, like give our students more students to interact with, more people, more variety or diversity in our cooperative learning group. So let's say we were doing Romeo and Juliet, we might team teach together a couple of those lessons, a couple of those activities so that the students could get more out of it. You can also do that, and this plays very nicely in inquiry-based learning, where you're asking questions, but team teaching works really well with inquiry-based learning, in that you could be, doing this like scientific type thing, and the math teacher and the science teacher can come together to deliver a lesson in which both of their contents are being utilized, and they're supporting, but it's under a different context. Like this question about like gas pollution in the ocean or something, or measuring the effectiveness of soaps to clean up oil spills. But measuring it using math, and those two different teachers coming together in order to execute a lesson.
So when you summarize team teach, which that one's basically just like the same subject, but together?
Right, but it doesn't have to be the same subject, because remember, you can have like maybe a social studies teacher and a ELAR teacher get together to teach a lesson about the Holocaust and put their kids through activities about the Holocaust. It's just two educators, collaborating together to hit a variety of learning objectives. One moment, I'll be right back. All right, guys, there was a delivery. My bookshelves have arrived. I just need to put them together now. No bueno. All right, where were we? Okay, so maintaining supportive and cooperative relationships with colleagues. So working with your colleagues, like I said, talking with, the teachers, working with the teachers that have your students. I have many times, and I told you guys before, gone to see what the history teacher is doing so that I can, choose pieces from a time period that they're currently studying, so they can bring to our discussion other facts that are pertinent, and it bolsters their sense of self, their internal intrinsic motivation to learn, and they see the bigger connection. It never fails to sort of like surprise me or astound me when kids would make the connection between like the poetry that we read and times during slavery when it came out, or the Vietnam War, or whatever the time period they were studying. I would look for prose and poetry to either to do the attention getter, or to do activities on for analysis, to to test different ELAR learning objectives. But when they made the connection, like poetry is not just poetry, and it's an expression of pain from a time period, or an expression of emotion from a time period, or like based on a certain conflict or a certain something. And so once they really see that, they make all sorts of connections between other things, and it's really awesome to see. And that happens with building cooperative and supportive relationships with your colleagues. You shouldn't be, I just go to the school, go to my classroom, teach my students, and then go home. You should be talking to your colleagues, especially if they have your students, especially if there's students that are struggling in your class, ask around, ask the other teachers that have them, look on their schedule. There's nothing wrong with looking up a student's schedule and literally going to every student's teacher and asking them, hi, and on a big high school, it might be kind of weird because you don't know that person personally, but you guys work together and you share a common kid. So go and talk to the other loco in parentis. That's loco parentis is the parent at the location, and every teacher of record is loco parentis. We're the parent of the location the whole time the student's with us. So having that dialogue, cooperating together, building those relationships only serves to make your life and job easier. Communicate effectively with them. You're also going to have to communicate with like the special ed teachers, the special ed department, 504 department. Your student might have, you know, speech pathologist or someone you might need to speak with. There are other colleagues, professionals that you will interact with. And so just understanding, you know, to build, maintain those relationships respectfully so that you can achieve your goals, the school goals, and the educational goals for the district. Participate in decision-making, problem solving, sharing ideas, expertise. The district will very often, districts will ask for volunteers to join committees because they need to. It's like literally the law before they do major things that they have to sort of talk to people who are going to be affected by it. And I know a lot of people are busy, they have their own lives, but it's really important that we stay involved in sort of the day-to-day functioning of the district, because a lot of that does trickle down and have consequences for us. So because I have to pick and choose where I give my energies, one of the things that I would do was serve on the textbook adoption committee. You know, that's something that you give your time up for. It's a lot of hours, but it was important to me to have my voice heard for my students, for my campus, on what types of text I thought the district should adopt. So, you know, utilizing your voice and your expertise, your ideas to help, you know, problem solve and lend your expertise to the goals. Serve on committees, volunteer to participate. You know, a lot of the things that districts do for the committee are literally carried out via the function of volunteers, right? The volunteers of the PTA, but moreover, the volunteers of the staff, the teachers and the staff. So whenever we have the carnival that is every year, the fall festival that's every year at my junior high, one of the junior highs I was at, that meant that the teachers were gonna, every year we liked it. It was such a fun day, but the prep that went into it and the stress, it was a lot. And all of that was for free. And all of that was for fun for the kids, for fun for the community, for the parents, to make that connection. And also, you know, to fundraise or whatever, but it was a lot of work. And when I think about all of the really amazing things that the different schools that my own children have gone to, and ones that I've worked at, they are all carried out via the love and energy of teachers that give up their free time to volunteer so that these events and projects can take place. And you can't function without it. It wouldn't, if everybody was just like, nah, 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, got to go home, not coming back, you know, it would just be so limited, and the community would suffer. Which is why I feel like teachers are the real MVPs, literally, of all time. Okay. Next, we have another leg, continuing your professional development. So once you take this exam, pass this exam, it's not the end of the road for you. It never stops. We never stop learning, because human beings are so diverse and nuanced, multifaceted, and we're learning more and more about the way that the brain works and the way that people learn and the different things that affect the student's ability to succeed. And so things are constantly changing. They have changed so much since I first started teaching in 2003. I mean, just so even the way we taught reading was completely different. Like, so the importance of participating in professional development is, I mean, it just can't be understated. Not only is it important vital to your success as an educator, it's also required by law. Like you cannot reapply for your standard if you have not maintained and kept up with 150 professional development hours. So I always tell my teacher interns, when they start their first year of teaching, and the years after until their certificate expires and they have to, apply for a new one, which the process is very easy. You just apply and pay for, but you have to sign lawfully that if they come, and they do come, sometimes it's random, but they randomly check people. Let me see your professional development folder, and they need to see certificates. So something my mentor told me, and I tell everyone, is just to keep a folder, at home and at school, where you throw any of the certificates that you get from the Saturdays they make you come in, from the summer school, the summer sessions that they make you do, anything that you get a certificate for, keep, so that you can prove to the state, should you need to, because it is important. It's a whole section of our professional standards. You participating and engaging in seeking of new ideas, seeking of new skills to enhance your craft, understanding that you are not an expert ever in this field, because it is always changing and we can always do better. So it is our job to be continuously looking for new ideas, talking with other professionals, attending those, free professional development sessions on LinkedIn, or when the district, gives them. You can even, let's say you need professional development and Miss Elsa is really good with her classroom management. I'm going to go during my conference period for the next 2 or 3 days just to observe, because I want to see what she does in there. Like, what does she do different than me? That's you going in, taking notes, assessing, talking to someone. That is a type of professional development. If you got that teacher to write you that you went and observed and discussed, blah, 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 but you seeking out knowledge when you need to, and you need to know when you need to seek out knowledge. And that only happens if you're reflecting. Are you reflecting on your pedagogy, the science of teaching? Are you doing it? Are the students where they need to be? And what could you be doing better and more? And the way to do things better and more is always going back to the students, back to the relationship with the students, and knowing who they are as little human beings, what their interests are, what their strengths, what their learning preferences are, what their weaknesses are, and coming to, coming at the content area through their lens, with their strengths by their size, with supports for their particular weaknesses, and with their learning preferences in mind. Now, I've never kept a self-assessment portfolio until the last couple of years. They were changing to T-test, and then we had to, because it was part of our assessment, like our professional assessment. But it's good practice for you to assess where you are. How are you doing with all of the areas? And like I said, there's several areas. There's the designing part of it, like you writing, crafting, thinking, composing, creating a carefully crafted plan of instruction that is appropriate for all students, that is, excels in relevant content knowledge, and that has frequent and continuous assessments. You also have to create a classroom culture, a classroom environment, a classroom climate that is conducive to student success. And what does that entail? The third part is you implementing. What are your strategies? How are your communication techniques? How are the communication techniques that you're having the students practice? And are those furthering their success in language acquisition and in your content area? What could be done more? And then lastly, you're getting better at what you do. I don't know a teacher who doesn't, at the end of the school year, think, okay, what am I going to do for professional development in the summer? Like, what am I going to go learn this summer? but you need to take that, what am I going to go do learn this summer because it's a task or a chore or it's expected of us, into like, how can I make my class better for next year based on my particular reflection on what my weaknesses as a teacher are. Because if you are reflecting back on your strengths, you're going to be, you're just your performance period, assessing your strengths and weaknesses, and then making small, but, purposeful changes to support or circumvent those weaknesses, then your pedagogy is going to get stronger every year. Every year. There are some teachers who are phenom, amazing. My gosh, it just was like they were born to be these things. You're not just born into that. These are people who have learned and strived and charted their success and their performance as an educator, because it's not just the student's performance, it's our performance too. So this last leg of it is you really assessing your own performance, your strengths, your challenges, problems that you've had, potential problems you'll see in the future, and ways in which you can improve teaching. And that happens with dialogue. Like if I ever had a problem or I saw an issue, I would talk to my, mentor, I would talk to my team, I would talk to my teacher friends and say like, well, have you ever seen this? Like, what happened? They would give me a thing. This is what I do with this. Maybe I try it and it doesn't work for me. And like, oh, no. And somebody else tells me something different. It's not a one size fits all. That thing that she told me that didn't work for me at first, it might work when that happens again and it's another kid. It's not a one size fits all ever for us, which is why gathering of like how you do things in all the different types of situations for the different types of humans we encounter is going to give you the best, chance for success. So this last leg is the legal and ethical requirements. So there are legal requirements that we have for our special ed kids. You are not allowed to say, oh, you know what? I think Tommy is pretending with his ADHD and he doesn't need that, what is it called? Accommodation. He's fine. He's just like, he doesn't need a little timeout break outside. He's fine. He just wants attention. You were not allowed to make that decision. There was a committee of people that involved, doctors, therapists, all sorts of people that decided these are the things that are necessary. And we're putting it into a document that is codified in law to support this student. And if we don't adhere to that legal document, the IEP that they came up with during the ARD, then we are liable. We're breaking the law. We're doing a disservice to the student because it's already been decided that in order for them to receive equity of education, they need particular services, particular things in order to be able to get commiserate education based on their disability. And so family rights, child abuse are necessity to be the outcry and a mandatory reporter for child abuse. We are the largest safety net that children have in America, are public school teachers, the public school system. Because other than their parents, and with the occasion, their pediatrician, if an abusive parent wants to isolate a child, there is no stopping them except for if they attend public school and a teacher notices. So teachers serve, like I said, so many professional roles, more than just teaching the content. We serve many functions. Confidentiality, so important with all of our students. Every single one of them has the right to confidentiality. You are not allowed to make jokes or joke about or get upset about them. Oh, you've been tardy 17 times this 6 weeks. Nobody else needs to know all that information, and you've just violated the law by making that statement. There's a right to privacy. You can have a conversation. You can email the parent. You can email the, attendance office or the, truancy officer, but you cannot let other people know the business that is personal to a student, especially if they're special ed, especially if they're special ed. I mean, you will just get into so much trouble. The policies and procedures for the code of ethics and standards, and these are just, you would think they're common sense, but some people, we see them in the news, and they're in the news for being inappropriate with children. And so if the law is very explicit, we are professionals and at all times with the students. So knowing those things is important. I don't think I need to go over them, as though maintaining accurate records, very important from a legal standpoint, but also from a accountability and just like covering your rear end. You never want to call a parent and say, oh, your son's failing, and then you don't have copies of their work to show. You just have your grades in the grade book because you don't make them keep anything and they throw it away. And so now it's your word against him. It's just numbers in a grade book, and as opposed to, so just really keeping records, getting your students comfortable with keeping records, also important. Don't let your kids just throw away stuff. Have them keep it for the 6 weeks. In the second or first week of the new 6 weeks, we'll move our old paperwork out, but keep it so that you can refer back to it if need be. Okay, guys, that's the end of standard 4 and domain 4. Do I have any questions?